Welcome back to the Itsy Game Series. Today we're going to create C++ modules in Unreal 5. So our objectives for this tutorial is to create C++ modules for our UI and our gameplay elements. So if you're familiar with C++ modules in Unreal, you can go ahead and create a blank module for your UI and a blank module for your gameplay, and you'll be good to go to catch up with the rest of the series. For everyone else, you may be asking yourself, what is a module? Well, if you go to the documentation, it's going to tell you that it lets you organize your code, speed up your build times, and configure the loading and unloading processes for your system and code. And that probably doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot to you if you're a beginner, but don't worry about it. We're going to walk through this all step by step. So if you're kind of like in between that beginner and that intermediate stage, and you've created C++ games within Unreal, whether it was Unreal 4 or Unreal 5, doesn't really matter, and you've tried to create folders and then gummed up the works, your entire game crashed, and you're questioning your life choices, this is the reason why. In order to add those folders and to make those separations to organize your code, you need modules. And the reason for that is the Unreal Engine uses what's called the Unreal Build tool to register changes in where files are located and that sort of thing. So in order to create those additional directories, you have to create a module for them to go in, and then you also need the code and the files specifically to be picked up by the build tool to then build your source code. So this will help you there if you've never run into that before. I would be surprised. When I was starting out, I ran into this a lot. I pulled my hair out, was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? What am I doing wrong with my life? So hopefully this will help, get you away from some of that. The other cool thing about the modules is technically you can pull them out and you can put them in another game by just adding that module in. We may or may not go into that, but you should be able to figure it out once you kind of get your feet wet. If you're really new to C++ and really new to Unreal, this is going to be super scary and super intimidating, but don't worry about it. Like I said, I'm going to go step by step. There's nothing in here that you can't fix, and I intentionally put this at the beginning of the tutorial series. So if you melt your source code, no worries. You can always go back, create a new blank project, and you're good to go. So with all that being said, I'm really excited. Let's get this going. Okay, if you're following along, you're probably right where I am right now. So go ahead and you're going to want to close down the Unreal Editor. And if you have Visual Studio up as well, you're going to want to close that too. For this portion, we're actually not going to be in Visual Studio or the editor, and you want those closed because we're going to be working on our source files. So in order to create the module, the first thing you're going to want to do is locate your project folder, which should look something like this. It'll be your project name, .u project, and then your Visual Studios file here as well. So we're going to go into source. We're going to create our UI folder. Okay, and that'll be the folder for our new module. And then we'll go inside that and create two more folders, a public and a private. Okay, and now we need to create a couple of quick files as well. So we need a build file, so that way the build tool can find it, and a CPP file, so that way it can implement it. So we need to right click, new, and you're going to do just a text document. And then you're going to rename it. You're going to name it UI system.build.cs. Okay. Now, if it didn't give you the option to change this extension, or you don't see your extension, if it ends up looking like UI system.build.cs.txt, if it's not a C# file, then what you're going to need to do is go up here on Windows 11. Anyway, Windows 10, you might need to double check to see where it is. I can't remember anymore. But you go to View, Show View, or Show, and then file name extensions. If you don't have that checked, you won't be able to see it, so it'll be like hidden. All right, and then we're going to also create our CPP file. So same thing, another text file. We're going to rename that UI system.cpp. All right, so now we have all the folders and files we need. Now we just need to actually put something inside them. So we're going to start with our build.cs. So right click and open that, or just double click and open it. It'll pull it up in Visual Studio just kind of all by itself. Okay, and then we're going to put some code in here. So it's going to be using Unreal Build Tool. Okay, so public class UI system module rules. Okay, and create its constructor. UI system. Okay, then we want it read only target rules. And then target. And then base target. Now this one's a bit of a mouthful, but it's private dependency module names. So private dot add range. It's gonna be a new string. And then for this one, it's going to be core U object engine and UMG. UMG is for UI, so that's why that's in there. Essentially, what this is doing is just referencing other modules and saying that this is dependent on that. It needs those modules to function. This gives us access to the stuff we want. So we want the core features, UObject, engine, and UMG in this case. So once we've got that, if everything is spelled correctly, we should be good. Hit save. We won't know until we try to build it. So like if you ended up like with a typo somewhere in here, you'll find out when you get to the other end. So if that happens, don't freak out. Just go back through with a fine-tooth comb, look for where you messed up. I'll let this sit for just a second here, so we can take a look at it or pause it, do your thing. But once you're done with this, go ahead and save, and then exit it. And then we're going to open up our CPP file next. And then this one, we're going to do an include. And if you're really new, the CS file is C#, and this is C++. So if you notice, like the name, using is the C# equivalent to include, and vice versa. All right, and that's f default module impl, and then UI system. All right, and there's the implementation for that. It needs this in order to build it. So go ahead and save all, and then exit that. Now at this point, everything inside the module is working just fine. Everything's there, but we do need to compile it. So we'll go back out, and we're going to right click on the U project, hit show more options, and generate Visual Studio project files. And let that think about what it's doing. Okay, so now it should have compiled all that. We right click on, the next thing we need to do is we need to update our U project folder or file. So you right click on this and open with, and you're gonna want to use like, Notepad. So you just pull that up. So it doesn't go look pretty, but it's there. All right, so right here you'll see for the project, it's got right here, it's modules. So everything within these two brackets here are going to be all of our modules. So we need to add one for our current module. So put a comma in there. And then some parentheses, as it were. And you can actually take and just copy these 3 lines. It's like super easy. And then paste them right there. And then change the name right here to UI system. So for pretty much everything, runtime is the type you're going to want to use, and the loading phase is default. That should work for pretty much most things. So unless you're looking for something specifically different, like say you're trying to make a module to run in the editor or whatever, that just in the editor, that's beyond the scope of what we're doing today. So hit save, close that down. And then we need to update our projects build file. So you go, sorry, I'm probably going a little fast there. So you go to your main module for your game, which would be whatever your project name is. Okay, and then it's going to be project name.build.cs. We're going to open this on up. Okay. And then we're going to add our new module to its dependencies, so that way it's looking for that. And save that. And exit. All right. And then we go back into our project folder, and we're going to take our Visual Studio file, our intermediate, and our binaries, and we're going to get rid of them. We're going to delete those. And then we're going to regenerate our project. So we're going to right click, show more options, right click, show more options, generate Visual Studio files. Let it do that. It's going to regenerate all the Visual Studio files again. All right. And then we're going to open the U project, and then it's going to prompt us saying that some of the modules are missing. That's okay, because it's got to rebuild all that. It's got to reconnect everything now that we've added things, taken it apart, and get it to do its thing. So let it rebuild. And I'm going to let this run while I talk here for a second, mainly for those of you that are relatively new. So this, I feel like, should have some sort of user feedback, because right now it's doing the work. I just can't tell it's doing the work. And so this may hang up for a little bit on your side. If it does, don't freak out. It's just doing its job. My computer's pretty beefy. It's got a Threadripper and 128 gigs of RAM. So like, your results may vary as far as time goes. So if it looks like it's not doing anything, just relax, let it be. It is working. If it fails, it'll pop up and it'll tell you that it failed. So Looks like I got all my spelling right, so fantastic, outstanding on me. And it's loading up now. Okay, so now it doesn't look like anything changed, does it? Well, it did. So if I right click and I go to new class and I go to, any class will do. And then I look over here. So you got Itsy Final, that's, your game module. And then you also now have this UI system module that we could add this class to. So that means when you now add a class and you stick it in the UI system, it's going to put everything where it's supposed to be. Its .h is going to be in the public folder. Its .ccp is going to be in the private folder. Everything's going to be linked up together. It's going to be great. Now, as far as the editor is concerned, it won't show that UI system folder here until you stick a class into it. Now, I'm not going to stick a class into it for this tutorial because I want whoever's skipping ahead to be able to just pick up wherever we leave off. So that being said, we're going to do the whole process again now for our gameplay module. So I'll close all that back down, and then I'm going to start over. So I'll skim back up to the top of my notes again because, I have notes, believe it or not. All right, then I go back to my source. I'm going to create my new folders for my gameplay. So gameplay. All right. Create a new folder here for public. And then a private folder. Okay, and then I want to build my build.cs. So in this time it's going to be gameplay.cs.build.cs. So I would like to change that. Okay, new text document. Gameplay.cpp. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and open this one up, get into my build.cs for the module. I'm going to do the same thing again. So I'm going to be using the Unreal Build tool. That's going to be a public class. Gameplay has module rules. And then creates a constructor. So gameplay, read only target rules. Basis target. All right, here we go again. Private. Okay, and we're going to do core. Core U objects engine. And I think I'm just going to leave it like that for now. If we need to go back as we build out the gameplay module and we start adding things to it, if we need more dependencies, then we'll just add them then. But this should get it going. It's got pretty much everything it needs to get started. So we'll save that. Exit. Okay, I'll open up the gameplay. Okay, same thing we did before. Include modules / module manager .h. Yeah, make sure I spell that right. Okay, implement underscore default module. And that's gameplay. Alrighty. Save all. Exit. Alright, and then we're going to go back out to the project folder. Regenerate our Visual Studio files. Make sure that that passes. Alright, that worked. Now we're going to update our project file. So open with a text editor or notepad. Okay, now it'll be super simple this time. We're just going to go ahead and copy the whole thing we did for UI system, add a comma, drop that in there, make this gameplay. Should save, should be good there. And then we're going to update the game to need for those dependencies. So we'll open up our project.build.cs and then go in here and add gameplay. Save that. Exit. All right, we're gonna do the same thing we did before. We're gonna take the Visual Studio file, the intermediate, and the binaries, and we're gonna get rid of those. Those delete. All right, and then we're gonna generate our Visual Studio files again. All right. And then we'll double click on the U project and let it rebuild the missing modules. And this time I'm gonna go ahead and pause the video while I'm waiting. So once it kicks back up, I will be back. Okay, now it's finished building and the editor popped back up. So let's double check to make sure everything ended up where it was supposed to. So I'll act like I'm gonna create a new character. And there it is, gameplay, Itsy Final, and UI system. All three of our modules are in and working just fine. So at this point, that's all we need to do. If you have any questions or run any problems, go ahead and drop them in the comments below, and I'll get back to you and see if I can help you navigate the system. So congratulations, you now know how to add modules to Unreal 5. Thanks for joining me, and I hope to see you on the next tutorial.